any heirs ever. And you and I both know that it's not true. So, when I say there's ghosts, what I'm saying is this, is that the Lord revealed to me that when people die, in all the myriad of ways people die, they don't all instantly go either to hell or either to heaven or either to outer darkness even. That some murdered victims, and don't ask me to explain how or why, I'm just telling you what the Lord revealed to me point blank, and you can, argue about it if you want. That really doesn't matter to me. I'm just trying to state truth and open up reality, for people so that they will once again consider seeking the Creator, that they basically were turned off from too much false dogma and doctrine in their, search of the religions when they visited a church. I'm just trying to say, look, don't be turned off to the Creator because of all the many errors of we fallible beings who speak nonsense in our arrogance, basically. I'm trying to say that divine revelation does declare truth, and if you think about it, for any length of time, then you realize that the truth that I'm declaring, being an uneducated person, had to have come from the Creator, and as such, acknowledging the existence of the Creator, realize that you too can learn from the Creator. And in my opinion, that's my whole ultimate goal for talking about all these things, about what I've been shown from our Creator. It's not that anybody would think of me one way or another. It's just to get people to seek the Creator and talk with the Creator and learn from the Creator themselves. That's it. That is absolutely my motivation, my primary motivation for everything I declare. Now, it's not to create doctrines and divisions and all kinds of things, or any other, sly or ulterior motive. It's not. So when I say that some people that are murdered, primarily, it's not all ghosts or poltergeists or haunts or anything like that are murdered victims. I'm saying the vast majority of what the Lord showed me in the revelation of people, spirits that were still here among us in the earthly realm, were murdered victims. Majority, not all. Some might have been suicides, but typically some kind of premature death where they didn't get to finish their journey of incarnation. It was cut short by somebody choosing to do evil against them, typically. And even suicide, as far as I'm concerned, actually is a spiritual homicide. It's a result of spirits influencing a person to get so hopeless and so full of despair and so full of self-loathing that they end up, acting violently against themselves, which goes against basic instinct. And that, to me, actually shows a spiritual attack upon a soul that probably was intended to be powerful for God on the planet, and demons said, we got to do our best to get rid of this one before they get the knowledge of the truth. That's how I look at suicide personally, for the most part, and that again is through divine revelation. It's not just by my own choosing. It's that I saw that this is what occurs because people won't acknowledge, the spiritual realm. They're not able to have the power that only Christ can give them in order to fight off these demonic attacks of self-loathing to great despair and to great hopelessness and then self-violent acts of suicide. So, at any rate, I speak that when somebody says that they actually saw a departed loved one, for you to sit there and say they saw a demon is cruel. That's unbelievably cruel. Now, I'm not saying that's not an option. I'm not saying that that's not a possibility, but that does not mean that it was absolutely, positively a demonic demon deceiving them. It could have very well been, the spirit of the recently departed. It could have been, yes. And I know people say, no way, there's no way that could be. They're either asleep, or they're, in paradise, or in heaven, or in hell, or in outer darkness, or anything that they can fit into any main category that they can actually find in the Holy Bible. And I'm trying to say that although the Holy Bible is divinely inspired, if you think that that book is the only divinely inspired written material on earth, you are yet in still willful ignorance. And once again, taking the position of limiting God Almighty, your Creator. Divine inspiration is an eternal aspect of God Almighty, as God Almighty is eternal. In other words, the finite written material of the canonized version, although it leads to the infinite Creator, and as such is full of sufficient knowledge for every soul, does not mean that that's the only divinely inspired written work on planet Earth. I'm sorry, you're mistaken if you say that. You are mistaken if you say that. You're basically saying that he that inspired prophets of old and declares unto you that there will be prophets until the church is perfected, in other words, until we are incorruptible and immortal, eternal beings, will not inspire them to write, even though he says, my tongue is the pen of a ready writer, Psalms 40. And even though he tells you point blank there's going to be scrolls opened up in the book of Revelation, in other words, there's going to be written material that gets declared over time and space. In other words, the Creator is telling you, in no uncertain terms, that you should not, and you really don't have the right to tell him to shut up. To tell him that he's said everything he's going to say and will never say another word again. You don't have that right. Regardless of whether you preach, my Bible says if you add to or take away or change these words, it's like, yeah, my Bible says that too, but it also says it in 4 different places. It says it, in 4 different places scattered throughout millenniums. So at what part, of the scriptures does that mean God will never speak again? Will never declare it? It's a misinterpretation. It's basically saying, if God says something, if God tells you something, if God, declares, write these words, that you don't add to whatever he tells you to write, that you don't take away from whatever he tells you to write, that you don't change whatever he tells you to write, but that you write and you speak verbatim exactly what the Creator tells you to. Doesn't mean that he'll never speak again. Doesn't mean that he'll never, divinely inspire anyone else to speak again or write again. So please don't say that that's the only book in the universe divinely inspired, because you're just announcing your ignorance to everybody else, and you're also then making people that are sitting on the fence trying to judge whether or not you're even remotely part of the truth, then judge the entire religion as false, as man-made, because you're declaring something that's fundamentally so untrue about the Creator, and basically placing yourself in a position of power over the Creator, of saying, God will never speak again. And that's why, the religions on earth that are false are so blatantly obvious, like Islam, thinking that the last prophet is Muhammad, and yet still praying for the Imam or their Messiah. In other words, can't be the last prophet. And anybody with any sense knows that. It's basically saying that, God, we don't want to hear from you anymore. We're in charge now. Yeah. So all I'm saying is that when I tell you that there's ghosts, and that ghosts often are not commonly as declared just demons deceiving people into seeing something, but that they really are the spirits of departed souls. In other words, spirits that have come out of their bodies and are actually, before they ascend or descend or whatever, and some of them don't. Some of them stay right here with us. There's some murdered spirits that haunt whatever, a house or hotels or this or that. That's real. That's reality. That's not somebody's imagination. Those things really happen. And they're not haunting. It's just that they're there mainly because their incarnate journey was cut short by violence, and really they've got, that spirit has this overwhelming desire to be justified. In other words, to let incarnate beings know how they were murdered. And typically what the Lord showed me, that once that occurs, then their spirit can depart to, to one of those places, above or below or wherever they're going to end up. But that there are spirits in this realm. Now we know that there's spirits in this realm because Christ tells us. When an unclean spirit has come out of a person, an unclean spirit, what's an unclean spirit? Now why doesn't he call him just a devil or a snake like he called some of the murdering Sadducees and Pharisees? He didn't call them that, he called them an unclean spirit. Well, why do you call them an unclean spirit? They're not washed. You mean spirits need to be washed? They need to be clean? I'm like, yes! Yes, that's what the scriptures say. People think it's just, what is it saying when it says, wash you, make you clean in the blood of the Lamb? Are we supposed to go, slit a lamb's throat and pour their blood all over us and stuff? No, but some people are that foolish. No, the lamb that was slain, the sacrificial lamb that was slain for all souls, is Christ. And what he's saying in the spiritual realm, just as blood pumps from your heart through your veins and goes to each and every cell of your body and removes the waste and toxins and brings inspiration, oxygen, and nutrients, that the blood shed of the Holy Christ of the Messiah must cleanse your soul, your being, your spirit, or your spirit is unclean. You are unclean. You are basically, until Christ washes you, until you're washed in the blood of the Lamb, spiritually speaking, until that occurs. In the spiritual realm, you are covered with excrement. You are a stench. You are unclean. That's why Christ says unclean. When an unclean spirit comes out of a person, in other words, by the power of God Almighty, he casts an unclean spirit out of a person. And it's like he's saying, okay, this vessel then is empty. And being empty and stuff calls it, when he says the cage or of every foul and unclean bird, he's talking about that this body, this physical matter can house not just one unclean spirit, but more demons and devils and unclean spirits in one physical body can be housed, and that physical body then becomes a cage of those unclean. It's like it's a cage encompassing those spiritual dark beings. And how do you know when somebody's demonically possessed or so on and so forth? They come out with all these different, manifestations, showing the spirits within. Lots of them will change their features, put on different clothes. Suddenly, they'll start acting all kinds of different ways, completely out of anything they ever acted before. That shows demonic possession and influence. Now I know scientifically they're like, that shows chemical instability and mental illness and so on and so forth. And it's like, no. I'm not saying that that's never the case, because there are so many chemicals and toxins being, put in people's food and water and even the air we breathe. But I'm saying, we're just revealing fundamentally that there is other things to look at in reality. The spiritual realm that constantly gets ignored by most, and by too many, frankly. And I'm saying that when you see ghosts, and people think that ghosts can't touch physical matter or move on physical matter. I'm telling you, they're most definitely wrong. Demons, devils, and ghosts, can with effort. It's the same thing like to say that there's nobody that's capable of telekinesis. I'm telling you, you're wrong. There are people that are capable of telekinetic, motion, and definitely telecommunication. A whole bunch of people. I'm telling you point blank from the creator of these things, man. Just whether you want to believe them or not, just so that when reality actually occurs, then people will say, hey, man, there was somebody out there that not asking for money, not preaching on TV, not trying to get over in any way, not saying, join them or follow them, or in any way trying to get any, self-accolation or anything. It just said, hey, this is what God taught me. This is what's occurring in reality, and this is what explains these things. And it's like, wow, maybe the Creator is real. Maybe the Creator, does want to talk with each and every one of us, because that was his underlying message. That's what he said, that it was his fundamental duty to express. So, ghosts, demons, devils. We know that there's as many different angels as there are, like, how do you say, men, women, and children. In other words, we don't all look alike. Neither do the angels. Some of them are taller, some of them are shorter, some of them are bigger, some of them are, little cherubs. That's where all that comes from. And just like there's ranks in a military, there's ranks, of demons and devils, and there's ranks of angels, archangels, and so on and so forth. And the demons and devils, like I said, some of them look like these little imps. And by imps, I mean they're shorter. They're only like maybe 3, 4, 5 feet tops. And they got, they look like, all kinds of different things. Some foul and unclean spirits look like, how do you say, coalesced smoke. I don't know how else to describe it. They've got this ethereal and intangibleness about them. Some of them actually look very tangible, like, leathery bat-type wings and claws and stuff. And some of them look like leathery skin, and some of them are grays, and some of them are browns and puke-covered greens. And I mean, there's all different, colors and appearances of the way, demonic forces look. And pretty much Hollywood, shows you exactly what a lot of these demons and devils look like in the so-called horror movies. That's where those imaginations come from. So I'm just saying that none of us have it all figured out. That God Almighty, in the vast universe of things, has revealed, some things in His Word, but not all things. Not all things are revealed in the Holy Bible. Not every single thing that exists in the universe is discussed in the Holy Bible. He even tells you, man, that there will be messengers that will bring out some things new. In other words, some things that hadn't been heard of before. So, I'm telling you, the reason I tell you about ghosts and poltergeists and all those things in reality is because that is reality, that is real. It's not, made up, fictional imaginations. And some people actually do see departed loved ones' spirits, and basically give each other a break and stop, trying to be so theologically, this is the way it is and I'm the only one that understands it 100% perfect, when you know that's simply not true. And everybody else knows it. And when you take that position, people are, especially people that have not called upon the Creator yet, that might be visiting your church and stuff, are so turned off to the religion of it that you may be turning them away from salvation, from knowing God and your religious dogma. And you don't want to be the modern Sadducees and Pharisees that think you understand the things of God, and actually in the process are turning people away from Him, that Christ was incensed with when you claimed to love Him. Many different kinds of demons and devils, and not all spiritual manifestations or revelations are demons and devils. Some of them are angels. Some of them are the good guys, for sure. Absolutely, positively, there's more angels than there are demons and devils. Twice as many in all the universe. Demons and devils are way outnumbered. Not just overpowered by even one angel being able to take out hundreds of thousands of them. So they're not only overpowered, but they're completely outnumbered. They're way on the losing side. And they're fugly. Who wants to be fugly? Why would you worship, these, completely revolting, disgusting looking creatures, or ever want to become one?